Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Eric abroad. If you guys don't know me, my name is Eric, and I studied abroad in Japan for about a year, a couple years back. I'm now back in Japan, starting my first job as an entry-level English teacher. I didn't necessarily go to school studying English teaching or anything like that, but I wanted to return to Japan. I wanted to continue documenting Japan. I really fell in love with the country, and I wanted to see if trying to live here for a few years would be a fun thing to do, and we're back. I'm basically here right now to give you guys just a quick update, not a really fancy schmancy video or anything, just to let you guys know kind of the position I'm in right now and what it looks like moving forward, and just kind of the quick rundown of what has basically been happening over the last month since I landed here in Japan. So as a too long didn't read version for people who might not want to watch the entire video, and in the future I will be doing on my podcast series a more in-depth and very long explanation and walkthrough of kind of the entire story process. But basically, in a nutshell, my job is kind of this startup company. It's never worked with bringing in a foreigner before, so it's been a new process for both of us. And because of that, there's been some miscommunication, there's been some confusion and things like that during this entire process. And right now, the difficult process that I'm going through right now, and the thing that I am trying to kind of work to get out of, unfortunately, is the apartment that I just signed a 1-year lease on is simply too expensive. I'll explain in a moment how I kind of got into this situation and why I would decide to choose this place knowing that my salary isn't that high. But I think if you hear me out, you'd understand kind of how this kind of happened. And right now I'm realizing immediately that it's not a good situation to be in, and I need to basically probably lose whatever deposit I put on this place and try to get out into just a very, very cheap apartment. You know, up until this point in my life, I've lived a pretty, I guess I would say, comfortable and easy life in that, like, I don't get very depressed, or I'm not very bipolar, and I don't have a lot of, like, post-traumatic stuff, but I'll admit, I feel like I've experienced almost a lifetime's worth of that much stress and fear within, like, the last 2 or 3 weeks. So basically, again, when I was coming to Japan, the job that I'm working for is basically this after-school, very small, kind of new startup program, English teaching program. There's 3 other teachers that are all Filipino teachers who don't speak a lot of Japanese. So I converse with them, obviously mostly in English, and then I talk to my bosses and stuff in my pretty low-level Japanese. And, you know, if I ever have a question or I'm not sure about something, I can usually ask the English-speaking, like, so how does this work? How do they pay for this? You know, what are the fees for this? And they explain it. Unfortunately, I am getting the vibe that because they don't speak fluent Japanese, that there's actually a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of things that maybe those teachers don't actually really know all the details on. One of those major things is that when I was first arriving here in Japan, I had asked one of the teachers if the company pays for commuting. Most people don't necessarily obviously live right next to their work. They live outside of the city where it's cheaper or somewhere weird, and the company will usually give you a train pass for like a 3-month or a 6-month thing that allows you to commute unlimited between where you live and where you go to work. According to one of my coworkers who lives fairly close to his work, he said that they don't pay for his commuting, as he lives close enough, they kind of just expect him to bike to work and back. And of course, I tried asking this in Japanese, and I thought I had confirmed that they said, like, you will be commuting by bike, so it's better for you to get a location that's near work. And they have a few different locations. So although I'm mostly working at one branch right now, there is another additional branch that they occasionally ask me to go to. So it seemed like they were wanting me to kind of move somewhere in the middle so that I wouldn't have to take the train. This, unfortunately, had led me to believe that I had to choose between a few apartments within this specific area, which happens to be one of the most expensive districts just outside of Namba. It's basically like I'm working full-time at McDonald's and trying to live in downtown New York. Again, it's a really, really, really bad case of miscommunication where I just thought, okay, like, you know, obviously if I could live farther out, it would be cheaper and I could train in, but they keep saying that I need to, like, live in this closer area, so I have to choose between these options. So most people who come to teach English in Japan as their first job, they'll usually come through a program like JET or Interact, where the company will help you get an apartment and basically give you an apartment so that you don't have to really deal with any of this stuff. And in my case, I decided to go with a company that was this startup deal because I thought it would be kind of fun and adventurous, as like I have this job opportunity that I don't have to go through the main program. I thought it'd be fun to pick my own place and kind of, do all this on my own. And of course, in hindsight, I'm kind of envying a lot of those people at Jet and all this stuff, because finding an apartment in Japan is extremely strict, and as a foreigner, it's very, very difficult. And on top of this, if you want to move to Japan as a foreigner, there's a lot of things that you can't do until you have an apartment. For example, if you want to get a cell phone, you first need to have a bank account. But to have a bank account with either a actual bank or just a post office where you can just deposit money and withdraw money with an ATM card, you first need a home phone and a home address. And before you can get any of these things, you have to first have an apartment. So my main goal when I first got here was I'm going to get here, temporarily stay in Airbnbs and move into my apartment, kind of as soon as possible, not rush too quick, but I want to find a good place and get this going. Unfortunately, this job that I chose, being this new startup company, they've never had to do this before with an American. When they had the Filipino teachers come in, they kind of had a house that they were able to let them rent out so that they were easily able to move in. But for me, I had asked if it was possible to find, a place myself, because I thought it would be fun to be able to pick my own space that I'm going to be spending a lot of time in, doing a lot of video editing and studying, etc., and cooking and all these things. And I thought if I have the time and have the option, why not look? Ideally, they would have maybe found some options for me before I got here and showed me hey, what do you think of these places or something like that. But they really didn't. So I wasn't really happy about this, obviously, because while I was waiting for my phone and bank to get set up, I have to first find an apartment, and in the meantime, I was living in Airbnbs while still working. They expected me to, to start working basically immediately and at least come into the school and hang out all day, rather than taking a few weeks to really figure out this apartment stuff slowly and make sure we do it right. At first, I obviously was blaming myself, and I was thinking man, I'm so silly, how could I, put myself in this position? But a few weeks later, looking back at it, of course, I'm an American, and I'm moving here to Japan and kind of being forced to do all this on my own. And of course, they had coworkers go with me, but they don't speak fluent English, so we're kind of commuting in, broken Japanese. And, I think I have an idea of all the fees and the taxes that get pulled out every month. And when I get my first paycheck and realize I'm actually making less than I even thought then, I'll admit that I was hit with a lot of dread and a lot of worry and a lot of fear. You guys know that I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I've been saving up money to ensure that I don't go into debt or anything moving here. And luckily, I'm not technically in debt. However, if I continue to live in this apartment, there's basically no way, unless I do other jobs or do a ton of YouTube stuff, that I'd be able to make any money at all basically throughout the month. I would basically be living 100% paycheck to paycheck, which is just not ideal. And I think at this point, despite having to lose a deposit, a really expensive one that I put down in this apartment, that deposit's paid whether or not I stay. I think at this point, it's just better to just cut my losses and find a new place. So you guys may have guessed what the big plot twist on this whole thing is, but when I was expressing my concerns this last week with my boss, saying hey, I know I just moved into this apartment, and this is embarrassing to say because I just signed the lease, but there's a lot of things I didn't know about this, and I thought we were on the same page, but I honestly, I don't think that this is a place I can afford. I really wish I had the option to move somewhere further and come in by train, because that would be cheaper. In me saying that and me expressing my concerns, saying I wish I could train in from a farther place, he of course says, oh, the company would pay for your commuting if you did move somewhere further. So I'm laughing now, and it's still not that funny to me, because in that moment, I won't lie, I wanted to jump out of a window. I basically was you're telling me that I could have spent a few more weeks out of an Airbnb and looked at more locations that are accessible by train, but much, much cheaper. This could have been completely avoided. And he's oh yeah, I thought you knew. At this point, I bought this apartment and I furnished it. I bought all my stuff through IKEA and Amazon and Nitori, which is another IKEA equivalent here in Japan. So I do have furnishings and I do own stuff, which was also scary when thinking I have to move now. I own all this stuff. I'm going to have to move it all again. But fortunately, if I do decide to move to a new place, if I can find one that's, lot cheaper, not nearly as fancy, not nearly as in a good area, but somewhat the same size, and I can still at least just have a bed, a place for my computer, and a shower. Right now, honestly, no matter how crummy it is, I'm all for it. And I'm now in front of the camera right now with a smile because I have hope, and I have been reaching out to people who have been in similar situations, maybe not this severe, but with people who have suggestions of apartments that you can move into that have very minimal deposits. They're foreign friendly, they can speak English, and they're made for foreigners to get basically just a really cheap apartment. So as you can guess, my priorities on kind of what I had for a vision of like my apartment have basically 100% shifted. I'd rather treat my apartment at this point as just a place to sleep and do my laundry and take a bath and get some video stuff done and maybe watch some TV before bed. I would rather treat it like that than I had originally anticipated, kind of having like this studio space and doing all this stuff. I'm just realizing, you know, working a full-time job, you don't really have that much free time. And especially when living abroad, you know, I'm not driving a car or anything. I'm on bike and I'm kind of doing everything and figuring everything out, doing, you know, Google Translate and things like that. Really, I feel like this situation is, you know, partly to blame on the company, partly to blame on myself for, I guess, not asking more questions. Figuring all of this legal stuff out as like an American is basically just impossible. That's why if you do get a job with an English company like Interac or Jet, they have all that set up for you, and it makes this process easy. There's natural stress that comes with moving half around the world and, you know, questioning like whether or not you're doing is the right thing. But when you're signing leases on things and then finding out that you could have moved somewhere else had you just asked a little bit more, it's obviously very frustrating, and it's easy to blame yourself. But of course, you talk to your friends and your parents, and they're like, dude, there's no way you would have known that. Talk to your boss and see if you can just pay that deposit, just forget about it, and just get a cheap apartment. Even if it's not your ideal location, you know, just having a bed and a place to stay and not having to worry about those finances and stuff will hopefully make this entire adjustment process into a new country just a lot better. Again, I didn't come to Japan to teach English. This isn't a job that I'm necessarily planning on doing the rest of my life. It sounds like a good opportunity and a good foot in the door to start a life in Japan, but I'm here to experience Japan. I'm here to walk around with the camera and share my experiences with you guys. I'm here to improve on my Japanese and just have a great time living abroad and just kind of going on this crazy adventure. I think is it's been a dream of mine. And if I lock myself into like, you know, a really expensive apartment lease and basically just go to work and come home at a job that, again, is, I may as well just be working at McDonald's. That's not why I took the job. I took the job as an entryway to get here, and while experiencing and doing other things on the side and kind of seeing if there's other opportunities to branch out into. So I know right now my next step is basically I need to, unfortunately, get out of this apartment. So I know you guys probably want to see like, oh, the apartment tour and me being all excited and stuff, but to be honest, every time I walk into this apartment, I just get stressed out and I'm really worried about it. So I will be hopefully laughing at this in the future, and we can just like look back as like that was a really terrible learning experience, a very expensive learning experience. But I have been recording the entire process up until now, me getting my furniture and putting it up and all this, you know, there's more stories to this, by the way, even additional stress that I will be addressing in future videos. But I just wanted to make this quick video right now just to be very honest with you guys. And at first, I'll admit, like I was feeling embarrassed. Like it was hard for me to kind of get a camera up and kind of tell my fans like, hey, by the way, I kind of fucked up. But again, this whole process is so wild, and I'm going about this such a way that's not very normal. That I can kind of come to grips with it, and I would just suggest to you guys, if you guys are interested in coming to Japan, you may not want to just apply with just some little startup weird company as your first year. If you can have an apartment already secured, or if you can do like a shared guest house, live somewhere temporary for a few months, figure out things without having to sign any contracts as much as possible, I think you're going to have a much less stressful experience and be able to just enjoy yourself a little more. Up until now, I'm of course excited to be back in Japan, but I don't really feel like I'm back into the Japan that I fell in love with, just because I'm still going through all of these adjustment processes and these legal processes, and now having to get myself kind of out of a bind while still working full-time at a job that I'm not necessarily planning on doing for the rest of my life. So I'm starting to feel more optimistic toward the future, and I think that if we are able to get out of this apartment soon and just get into a better financial situation where I'm no longer scared of that. It's my first year in Japan, and I think starting with just a very cheap, very not super fancy apartment is, in my mind right now, a much better way to approach this. And while we are working for a year, obviously looking for more opportunities, continuing YouTube, and just trying to branch out, find some opportunities and some success out here in Japan. So I thank you guys for understanding, as I've been here for a month and I was hoping obviously to have at least 1 or 2 videos out by now. Like, this is my apartment, this is the experience was stressful, but I'm here to, and this is just nothing like I've expected. So I think you guys deserve to know the truth of the situation, just in this kind of style, just me letting you know what's going on. So know that once this does kind of calm down and once I am able to look at some more apartments and hopefully solidify one and be able to start the process of moving out of this one and into that one, just know that it is obviously killing me that I can't put out videos and stuff, but this is something that we need to take care of prior. So maybe for the meantime, I might be doing a podcast or so every week or so. I'm not really sure yet. It's been about a year since I've been waiting to come back to Japan, and now that I'm here still, I can't make videos, and that's obviously very frustrating for me as well. So I already know that you guys are going to show a ton of love in the comments and stuff, so I'm thanking you guys preemptively. Thank you guys so much. We're in a bad situation, but I don't think there's any shame in that. It's as long as we can admit that we're not really happy in this situation, but we do have kind of a plan and a goal of how to get out of it. I think that that's the healthiest approach to this, and I think it's going to lead to a much more relaxed and a much easier adjustment to this new life in Japan. Thank you guys again for all your support, and know that once I do get a chance and once these things do calm down, that new, juicy, very interesting and very cool videos will be coming out. I've already been shooting some stuff in my free time and trying to get on my bike and just go cruise around and just clear my head and relax. Talking to friends and stuff like that, but we have been getting a little bit of footage, and I have a lot of ideas now of videos, obviously some advice of how not to move to Japan, but as well as some videos moving forward that I think are going to be really interesting. So I hope you look forward to those, and know that when the time is right, they will be coming out. I'm trying to stay positive, trying to remember why we're here, why I'm excited to be here in Japan, and trying to stay positive, as I don't know what my future here is, and if we lose motivation or lose positivity, that's not going to be good. We're here to just be here, work hard, and experience this country as much as possible, hopefully leading to other opportunities and things like that. And it's important that we, of course, keep enjoying the fact that we're here. So moving forward, I am optimistic. I'm still obviously under lots of stresses and things like that, but just know that once things are ready, videos will be coming out again. Thank you guys again for all your support, and again, for the meantime, you can go ahead and follow me on my social media. I've been posting a lot lately on my Instagram. My daily commutes, I usually see some pretty cool, just beautiful sceneries or just little random things, so check me out on there if you want to check out my story and things like that on that, if you just want to get updated. I've been posting on Twitter a little bit as well, so if you want to get little updates until we can get these videos going again. Right now, that's kind of the best place where you can reach me and kind of keep in tabs of just what I'm up to right now. So no video apartment tour for now. I know I'd like to show this camera and show it around, but right now, just looking at this place makes my stomach upset. So for now, let's just hang tight and utilize this time to make sure we can find a better apartment and just make sure we can hopefully try to get it done right this time. Hopefully with a lot of optimism and some hope, for the future moving forward here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time in either a new podcast or a new juicy video, but I thank you again for your patience. I'll see you guys then, and let's hope that we can turn what has been, to be completely honest, a very, very stressful start to our life here in Japan into a more relaxed situation so that we can just continue to have fun. I'll see you guys then. I thank you again so much for your support. I love you guys. You guys have been great, and let's hope that we can get out of this with a smile and be able to laugh at this in the future. Take care, guys. I hope that you're doing well, and yeah, let's just hang tight and hope things get better. I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna go have a beer or 3.